Hey guys, out today because my cat Penelope is sick, so I gotta take her to the vet this morning, but I will be at the school this afternoon, so if you have any questions, just stop by later in the day, and I can answer those for you. But our focus today is solving absolute value equations. So we worked on this probably about a month or so ago, but when we're doing these, we gotta remember that we could have two answers. Okay, so when we're approaching these problems, our first goal is to get the absolute value bars by itself, which in this problem you can see it's by itself, so we're good. So once they're by itself, that's when you have to split the answer into two. One where you have a positive 19, and then one where you have a negative 19. So I'm going to go ahead and bring down the rest of that equation so I can solve the two. So I've got k minus 9 equals positive 19, and then I've got k minus 9 equals negative 18, or not 18, 19, excuse me. So let's go ahead and solve that. So to solve for k, again, if we've got a minus 9, got to do the opposite, so plus 9. So that gets us 19 plus 9, gets us 28. So our first one's 28, and on the flip side, I'm going to add 9 to both sides, and negative 19 plus 9 gets us 10. Or negative 10, excuse me. So my two answers here are k equals 28 and k equals negative 10. Okay, let's go ahead and take a look at number 2. So with number 2, remember our first step is to look and see, are the absolute value bars by itself? And in this case, yes, it is. There's nothing on the side with those absolute value bars that we have to move. So let's go ahead and split that answer into 2, where we've got b divided by 10 equals 3, and then b divided by 10 equals negative 3. So remember, one's negative, one's positive, and now solve both. So remember, if we want to get b by itself, we got to do inverse operations. So if you are dividing by 10, the inverse would be to multiply by 10 on both sides. So 3 times 10 gets me b equals 30. And then same thing on the flip side, multiply by 10, multiply by 10, and b equals negative 30. Okay, so sometimes you will see the number for your answer be the same, where one's positive, one's negative, but that is not always the case. I see a lot of misconceptions where people will only solve one of the problems and then just slap a negative on the other one. Again, don't do that. Solve both of those equations completely so you can get those final answers. Okay, let's move on to number 3. Number 3, okay, so we have to get the absolute value bars by itself, which it's not in this case because we want to get that by itself, but we got that 7 there. So what we need to do is get rid of that 7, and because it's dividing, we are going to multiply by 7, and then 3 times 7 gets me 21. So right now I've got the absolute value of 8x equals 21. So then our next step, because we have the absolute value bars by itself, is to split that 21. Where one's positive, one's negative. So I'm going to have 8x equals 21, and then 8x equals negative 21. So then my last step here is to solve for x, and because 8 is multiplying by x, we have to do the inverse of that, which is divide. So I'm going to take 21 and divide by 8, and that gets us 2.625. Okay, so there's my first answer. And then again, we'll do that with the other one as well. So divide by 8, divide by 8. So x equals negative 2.625. That's a point. There we go. Okay, so again, it's not always the same answers, but in this case, yeah, it is, but not always. All right, let's move on to number 4. Number 4, so let's see, again, we need to get those absolute value bars by itself. We can see we got this plus 4 on the same side, so we got to move it to the other side. So because it's a positive 4, the inverse is to subtract 4. So now I've got the absolute value of 4x equals 16. And then we're going to split that 16 up. Okay, remember, because it's isolated now, so we're going to have one positive 16, one negative 16. So I got 4x equals 16, and 4x equals negative 16. And then last step, again, just get rid of that 4 in front of that x, and because it's right next to each other, we know they're multiplying. So let's go ahead and divide by 4. So 16 divided by 4 gets me 4, and then negative 16 divided by 4 gets me negative 4. Okay, so those are my two answers. I love how I keep saying, like, oh, they're not the same answer, but they keep being the same answer. But hopefully the next one's not. It won't be. Cool. Alrighty, so again, our goal is to get the absolute value bars by itself. Okay, we've got that 7 as our denominator that we got to get rid of, so let's go ahead and multiply by 7. And 5 times 7 gets me a 35. So right now I've got 5n minus 2 equals 35, but we got to solve for n, but we got to make sure that those are by itself first, which they are. So let's split that 35. One where it's positive, one where it's negative. So I got 5n minus 2 equals 35, and then 5n minus 2 equals negative 35. Okay, so let's go ahead and solve that. So we got to move over that 2 first. So let's go ahead and add 2. So then I got 5n equals 37. And we can do that same thing over here, plus 2, plus 2. But this one gets me 5n equals negative 33. Okay, so that's where we're just going to see those answers be different. Okay, and then our last step here is to divide by 5. So divide by 5, divide by 5. Well, let's see, 37 divided by 5 gets me 7.4. And then for my flip side, on my other equation, I'm going negative 33 divided by 5, which gets me negative 6.6. Okay, so again, those two answers are different, so make sure you're solving both of those equations fully. All right, we got one more left, number 6. Again, our goal is to get the absolute value bars by itself. They're not by themselves right now because we got that divide by 9. So let's get rid of that by multiplying. So those cancel out. Multiply by 9 on this side too. Let's see. The other one we got the absolute value of negative 3 plus 5n equals 27. Okay, so again, we've got those absolute value bars by itself. So let's go ahead and split it off where one's positive, one's negative. Hello, Penelope. So then we got negative 3 plus 5n equals 27. And then negative 3 plus 5n equals negative 27. Sorry, my cat Penelope wants to say hi. Yep. So, we got to solve both of these equations. And again, we got to move that negative 3 first. So because it's a negative 3, we're going to do the opposite and add 3. 27 plus 3 gets us 30. So right now I got 5n equals 30. And let's go ahead and do that same thing through the other side. So I got negative 27 plus 3, and that gives us a negative 24. So I got 5n equals negative 24 for the flip side. So again, these are going to be different answers. That's why you got to make sure you solve both of them. And then that last step is to just divide by 5. So divide by 5, h equals 6 for our first one. And then this one will get us a decimal if we divide by 5. Or not h, n. That's how bad my handwriting is. So let's see, negative 24 divided by 5 gets us a negative 4.8. But thank you for watching the notes. Please go ahead and log on to edsite.com to do that worksheet for today. And again, if you have any questions, just come find me sometime after 5th period, and I can help you out. All right, I hope you guys have a wonderful day. I will see you on Friday. Yeah, adios!